Welcome to Carlton's Math Corner. Today we're going to continue our study on the slope-intercept form. At this time, please make sure that you have your math journal, vocab packet, as well as something to write with. Our target today is I can identify how coefficient changes affect the graph of a line. Well, let's talk about what is a coefficient. Well, a coefficient is the number that's next to a variable. So it's being multiplied by that secret number. And so when in our previous videos, we talked about slope-intercept form. And here's an example of an equation written in slope-intercept form. This is y equals 2x plus 1. The 2 represents slope, and the 1 represents the y-intercept. And the number 2 is what we refer to as a coefficient. It's being multiplied by the x, okay? So our target today is, we're trying to notice if there's any changes that happens based on, the different coefficients. Well, if we look at these different graphs, do you notice anything that changes between the graphs? If you look at the lines, how does the slope affect each graph? What does it affect? Well, when I look at this, I notice that if it is a positive slope, then I notice that the line is rising from left to right. If it is a negative slope, I notice that it's the opposite. It is falling from left to right. So I notice that no matter what, the slope is going to change the direction of the line based on if it's positive or negative, okay? The other thing that I notice is that if the greater the coefficient is, I notice that the line seems to be steeper. So like this coefficient is a positive 3, and look at how steep that line is. I mean, it is, I wouldn't want to walk up a mountain that is that steep. I think it would take me a long time. It would be really hard not to kind of fall down the mountain because it's so steep. But if you look at the line that's next to it in blue, this is 1/3, which is a really small number. And look at that. That negative slope is not as steep. Like that looks like more like a hill instead of a mountain to climb. And so the greater the coefficient is, the steeper the number, or the steeper the line. The smaller the coefficient, the less steep the line is, okay? And so I noticed that slope, it changes the direction, so it causes changes in the direction. So if it's positive, it goes up from left to right. If it's negative, it goes down from left to right. But it also changes steepness. So I saw that it affected the line by showing changes in steepness. So let's write this down. The greater the coefficient, the steeper the line. And then, so when we had a 3 next to the x versus the, negative 1/3, well, 3 is greater than 1/3, so it caused that line to be steeper. So the greater the coefficient, the steeper the line. The direction, as we learned before, if this would be a positive line, a positive slope because it's going from left to right, and this would be negative because it's going down from left to right. Okay? What I would like you to do is I would like you to take a look at these equations, and they're in slope-intercept form. I want you to look at especially the numbers in blue, and I want you to explain to me, how would this or each one of these slopes affect this line? Which direction would the line go? Would this be a really steep line, or would it be a more gradual incline, like it's not as steep? Okay. You may graph them. If you really need to look at the line, you definitely can graph them. Remember, start with, if you're going to graph it, I would start with the y-intercept, plot that point first, and then you can go rise over run, and that would help you plot the next point. Okay? Thank you so much for joining me at Carlton's Math Corner, and I look forward to meeting with you again.